Hey, Camille.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're going to begin our forum on our budget for this year, the city's FY 2021 budget. And I want to thank you for joining us tonight for our District 3 focus on the budget. We're here tonight with City Council District 3, Councilman Roland Barrera. He is the host of our meeting tonight. And he, as well as myself and many of our department heads, are in separate rooms. So we don't have to wear a face mask. We have been wearing face masks here at City Hall when we're working, but so we can communicate with you a little more clearly, we're in separate rooms this evening. And my name is Peter Zanoni. I'm the city manager for the city of Corpus Christi, and it's a pleasure being here with you this evening. In addition to Councilman Barrera being with us this evening, we do have several other council members, including Councilman Michael Hunter, a council member at large, Councilwoman Paulette Guajardo, she also is a council member at large, and Councilmember Gail Hernandez, he's City Council District 5 representative. We may have other council members on as well, and we'll have them identify themselves as we go through this evening's forum. We do have 15 different department heads, a little over 15 department heads, and they are here to help you get information, answer your questions, and listen to your comments through this evening's forum. That does include persons such as our police chief, our fire chief, our public works director, our parks assistant director and director, and other staff. And so, as I mentioned in the beginning, the purpose of the forum this evening, our interactive meeting, is to talk to you, to talk to the community, the community. And some of you that are on tonight's forum may have participated last year when we were live in the community. We went to the 5 city council districts and brought our department heads and other key members, as well as the mayor and city council. And we had a chance to talk to you in person, but because of the COVID pandemic, we're doing things a little bit differently. I think everybody is in their lifestyles. And so this forum, using YouTube and WebEx and TV and telephone, allows us still to communicate with you and get input from you, critical input that'll help us in the budget. And we have done this for several months, and several of our business meetings, we're developing several plans through the community, including one in the west side. And we're using this format of using the WebEx. One of the persons that's on our interactive meeting this evening is Annette Rodriguez, our public health director. And she and Mayor McComb, Judge Canales, myself, we've done numerous interactive meetings such as this to keep the community informed on what's going on the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. So this is our third virtual budget town hall. We held one in City Council District 2 and one in City Council District 1. And last night's was real successful. We had over 200 persons that were in attendance, similar to how you are this evening. And so what I'm going to do is go over the agenda quickly here, and then I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Barrera, who is going to make some opening comments. And after Councilman Barrera's comments, I'll be back on, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what is in the budget, show you some screen shots of some PowerPoint screens on the monitor. We'll also highlight several of the things that are going on in City Council District 3, in part because of the leadership of Councilman Barrera. And then after that shouldn't take too long, but then after that, we'll show you a budget video, and that'll highlight what is in the budget, and that'll take a few minutes. And then at that point, it's turned over to you, to the community. We want to hear from you. We'll be taking comments. We're looking now on Facebook and YouTube. And for those people who aren't using a computer, but maybe watching it on our public access channel, you can phone in, and all your questions, comments are being reviewed by our communications department. And Deanna McQueen, our interim communications director, will help moderate those questions and comments to us. And between Councilman Barrera, myself, and our department heads, we're going to take care of all your questions that you have this evening. So that is our lineup for tonight. And what I want to do at this point is turn it over to Councilman Barrera, who's here with us, and have him provide some additional comment and some welcoming introductory remarks for our meeting this evening.
All right, thank you, Peter. And, I just want to thank the community and thank you for participating. It's always important when the community gets involved and gets engaged in the political process, because these are your dollars that we're spending. And I encourage you to ask questions, ask tough questions, hold us accountable. I can tell you that I'm really pleased with this budget. It continues to show our commitment to streets, our commitment to public safety, police and fire. One of the things that I'm really pleased with staff over this last year is their commitment to customer service, and I think you'll find that in this budget. And I'd also like to thank my colleagues for joining us on this call, on this virtual participation. And any time if they feel the need to add something that they think would be of value, I encourage you. So thank you, Gil. Thank you, Paulette. Thank you, Michael, and anybody else that may be on. And with that, thank you, Peter. I'll turn it over back to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Councilman. All right, let me just spend a few minutes, and we're going to show you some screenshots on the monitor as well. But let me just go over some of the highlights of the budget for you. And we'll see this again in the video, but it's worth hearing once or twice just to make sure we fully understand. So the budget that was presented to City Council recently is balanced. And if we look at the federal government's budget, that's not always the case in governmental budgets, but we have to, by state law, have a balanced budget. And so even though our revenues have been impacted because of the COVID pandemic, our budget's balanced. It does address your priorities, the community's priorities, and the priorities of the City Council, which are the reflection of the community. We do have a strong focus in streets and in public safety. And the key thing here, I was looking at some of the Facebook comments, but there was no property tax rate increase or any other fee or rate increases in this budget. There's zero rate increases in the budget. So we're able to deliver a decent package of services to the community with no property tax or any other fee or rate adjustments in this budget. The budget does total $1 billion. That's when we look at all of our funds. We have our general fund and enterprise funds. These are financial terms that we use, but we put various funds in certain categories. The budget's $1.0 billion. It's slightly less than last year. It was $1.1 billion last year, so about $100 million less, and that is in part because of the downturn in our revenues because of the COVID pandemic. The general fund budget, which we're most familiar with, this is where our police and fire on the next slide and streets are budgeted. That budget is about 2% less than the current year. So currently, as we finish up this fiscal year, our budget's $271 million, but the one that we proposed to City Council recently, and that would take effect on October 1, is $265 million. So a 2% decrease, in part because of the revenue downturn as a result of the downturn in the economy. When we do look at the revenues, this next chart will show you that our property taxes, without a property tax rate increase, have come in a little bit better year over year. We're projecting about 500,000 more for the next fiscal year. But you can see the middle revenue, the sales tax, about $4 million less, or 6.5% less in sales tax, and that's a big revenue for us. And then other revenues are expected to come in less as well, about 2.4 million less. But despite that, we are using your tax dollars and other resources to provide the balanced budget, the basic services, but also make some enhancements in this budget that'll take place on October 1. So let's talk about streets. That's the biggest priority in the community. And I'm glad you'll get a chance tonight to see, if you haven't already, our Public Works Director. He's been doing an outstanding job and creating many firsts for our city. We're actually self-performing now as an entity, and many other enhancements. But in this budget, we have 78 million for streets. That includes neighborhood streets and some of the big arterial and collectors. And it may seem like it's less in the current year where we had 128 million. But what is not in that far right bar is the 2020 bond program that the voters will consider in November. And that has 61 million in streets. And so if you put half or even a quarter of the 61 million, that 78 million gets closer to the current year budget. So we feel that the streets amount is decent given the financial situation. And we have a good package in the bond program that I'll show you a little bit about here momentarily. One key project we want to talk to you about in streets is our signature Ocean Drive. And we know, everybody knows that street is really has fallen in somewhat disrepair in some sections, and it's rough and bumpy in others. And so we have put together a package of $14 million that's funded and within the budget, and it does not take away from any of the neighborhood residential streets. Funding to resurface, to mill, take up the old surface, and then overlay it with a brand new street from curb to curb, also getting those bike lanes brand new. And that is a project that's going to begin later this fiscal year. So around the September, October timeframe, work is going to begin. And it's going to go from one end to the next, from I-37 all the way to Ennis-Jocelyn. This is going to be a beautiful improvement to the spectacular shoreline and Ocean Drive that we have. This is a real fortunate asset that we have in the community. And so we're excited about this project. Also in the budget is, in the budget is a list of streets for District 3, but in this next slide, I want to keep it up here just for a few minutes. These are all the streets in District 3 that are in the queue to be done. They're either in progress, some of them are under design, some of them are planned, and some of them are complete. There's a few on here that may be complete, but you can see a lot of work is going on in District 3. This includes current and prior bond programs. It includes street preservation, this in-house work. Our crews are self-performing, as I mentioned earlier, so all the streets that they're doing, you can see like Embassy, El Paso, Carolyn Drive, and then the big one to the right, the residential street program. Those are all the reconstructions. There's a long list. So all this work is being done in your district, in District 3. And this list does not include the additional streets that'll be programmed with the 2021 budget, that 78 million we talked about a few minutes ago.
And Peter, if I might add, I just want to also thank the staff for really putting this together, and thank my colleagues for supporting us on this, so that way we can tackle these streets. There's about 50 streets on here, and it just basically shows our commitment to taking care of our community. And I appreciate those of you in the community that are letting me know, hey, when can you get to mine? When can you get to mine? So we're working on it. So I'm going to post this up on my Facebook page, so that way if people want to review it later. But thank you so much. Okay, great. Thank you, Councilman. And then also particular or in City Council District 3 and also something that City Councilman Barrera has focused a lot on is Ayo Street. And this next chart will show you that. And Ayo Street, which is an $11 million project, which really started out to be a pedestrian enhancement project, and it was funded at a much lower level. But in working with the councilman and the community, we realized that, just doing a sidewalk job wasn't going to be enough. And so we looked for resources in our budget, and we're able to fully fund the project that'll be from SPID to Galahar. And it's going to not only do the pedestrian improvements, but it's going to take up that old concrete street that is there today. And in fact, they're in the process of doing that right now. They're excavating and removing the concrete road. And we'll be putting in a brand new street and pedestrian facilities. This is an $11 million project. We have a great contractor, Haas Anderson, who's doing the work.
The project started in January of this year, and it's going to take a little over a full year to complete. It'll be done in March of this next year coming up. And the project is just slightly behind. We like to talk about schedule and budget. It's on budget, but just slightly behind schedule due to some unforeseen utility conflicts and some issues with the soil. But this contractor is good in making up time, and we think that it will be done pretty close to the schedule that was originally proposed. So, Councilman, did you want to say anything on Ayo Street?
No, and well, yes, I just like to once again, obviously it's been a little bit of a heartache for the businesses out there, and so hang in there. This project, actually, I like to call it a legacy project. It was actually council member Priscilla Leal that felt that we needed sidewalks out there, and we needed them real bad. And this is going to remove the ditches and replace it with underground utilities. And that area is a thriving economic area, and we need to do our part from the city to make it look like it. So I thank the staff, and I want to also thank my colleagues again, because they voted for this unanimously. And but great job. Keep up the good work.
Good. And then another project I wanted to highlight is Lavoro Creek project, and this is in City Council District 3. And this one has been in the works for many years, but it does take members of council to help keep projects moving forward. That includes Councilman Barrera. And so this project's a $25 million drainage project. And one of our staff members applied for a grant, and we received the grant of $12 million from the federal government. And then we'll match it with an equal amount, a little bit more from the city to make that $25 million budget possible. This is going to take a lot of homes out of flooding situations, not that happened even from a hurricane, but just a heavy rainstorm. And it's going to develop a significant detention pond so water can be held during a major rain event, and then it'll be slowly released down through the creek. And this is a great project. We took it to council for approval of the grant, the acceptance of the money, and appropriating our money to match it just this week. And so, Councilman, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, to the Lavoro Creek project. I know you've worked on it over the years. Yeah, well, once again, this is another legacy project which has gone back several council members. I know council member Rubio lives in that neighborhood, and out in Los Encinos, and they were the ones that were having challenges with flooding. And so we've done this is going to mitigate that, as well as it's going to alleviate some flooding that's even in the Molina area. So very important. I can't, staff has just done a tremendous job and sticking with it, and that way we can continue to move forward, and we can once again, on that those other areas, this is what's been holding back the development. And so now, once we've mitigated the flooding, it's going to help us open it up some more. So great work to the team. And this is another one that my colleagues voted unanimously on in support of. So thanks again. Okay, great. Okay, now we're going to get back to kind of a citywide perspective in the budget. So in the budget, in addition to our public infrastructure, things like police and fire are critical. And so City Council last year approved a plan to add 5 additional police officers for the next 5 years, so that we'd have 25 new additional officers by the year 2024. And that policy pledge was upheld in this year's budget, even though we have an economic downturn. So the budget includes 5 additional police officers. With those 5, we'll have a total of 456 officers in our strength. And we've done some enhancements in fire to include fully funding fire cadet academies. In the past, the city has not always done that. And what has happened is that as firefighters have retired, those positions were kept vacant, and then they were filled on an overtime basis, which is more expensive. And it's taxing on the firefighter who has to work long shifts. And so the budget includes funding for Fire Training Academy. It also has funding to replace some of the fire trucks and ambulance units as well. In code enforcement areas, we know that's an issue citywide. We recommended 2 additional code enforcement officers using federal funding that we get, that we can use. And so that'll bring our strength to 23 code enforcement officers for the city. We know libraries are important. We have a great library director, Laura, who's on the WebEx with us, and we, through her recommendation, have increased funding to provide more service at the libraries, keeping our library assistants and library aides in the buildings longer, and not on the slide, but also additional dollars for more maintenance in our library facilities. And then we know parks are really the lifeblood of a great community, especially here in Corpus. And we did a lot in the current year budget to improve maintenance and improve our vegetation and our irrigation and mowing. And in this year's budget, we have $38,000 to improve funding for maintenance of 3 recently commissioned or open splash pads. And I know one is in the Salinas Park. And so what the city hasn't always done is when we build a new facility, we don't budget money to make sure we maintain it. And so this is a good example of changing that. And so the budgets going forward, we'll have money now to make sure we're maintaining these types of assets so that they're brand new for many years to come and the community can enjoy them. And solid waste in the budget, our solid waste director and team are recommending and we're supporting looking at how we can compost a lot of the brush, grass clippings, shredded paper that now makes its way to the landfill. In fact, about 60% of everything that you put into that green bin, the garbage bin, that can be composted. It's a lot of stuff that's taking up valuable land space and costing you and us money. And so the budget includes a plan to develop a composting facility in operation, and every customer would get another cart. You'd have 3 carts, one for plastics and aluminum recycling and other recycling, and then one for organic recycling for lawn clippings, branches, coffee grounds, shredded paper, paper towel, and then a third one for your regular garbage. And so that's a good program. A lot of information will be forthcoming as this year goes through. And then we did mention that no city property tax rate, but there's no utility rate increases in our budget as well. So no water rate changes, no wastewater rate changes, no stormwater fee proposed changes. If you have gas service, there's no proposed rate change in the gas service cost. And we know we pay a solid waste fee as well, and there's no change there as well. So for the next 12 months, for the next fiscal year, the council was really, Councilman Barrera and the full council and mayor were really aware that the pandemic has caused a hardship on a lot in our community. And so we did our part to not have any rate adjustments or increases in the budget. And then we mentioned that bond program, and more information will be coming out, but the council approved a list of projects, 42 projects for the voters to consider this November in the election. And we know that Corpus Christi does a bond program like this about every 2 years. And so this November would mark that 2-year time frame. This bond program has no property tax rate increase, so we can do the 75 million in proposed projects in the current property tax rate structure. It does have 61 million for streets, there's 12 million for park improvements, and 2 million for some public safety projects. That's a total of 42 projects. And in District 3 on this next slide, each district, there's 5 city council districts in our city, and each district got about the same total amount of funding. In City Council District 3, we had some significant road work that we wanted to address. You can see them there. Airport, Morgan to Horn is close to $5 million. Carroll from Holly to the dead end is close to 3 million. And then Flato Road, Bates to Bear is 4.2 million, I'm sorry. And so that consumed kind of the rough proportional amount for District 3, but recognizing that the district didn't get any parks in the bond program, we recommended in the budget that we put all of our community development block grant for this next 12 months, which totals $1 million, into Salinas Park. And so that helps equal out the funding for District 3 in terms of improvements.
And if Peter, I might add,
yes.
included in this budget also is CDBG funds to put sidewalks on Sunnybrook Drive from Ayo Street all the way to Evelyn. And so that's another area that, has ditches, it's unsafe. And so now we're going to put sidewalks there to make that community safer. Another legacy project from Priscilla Leal. So we're still working towards for you. We're still working there for you.
Okay, great. So that concludes kind of just a general overview of the budget and the bond program and some of the items that are making a big difference in City Council District 3. And what we want to do at this point is turn the screen over to the video. We want to show you this budget video that we put together. And then we'll come back, and the rest of the meeting time will be for you. We want to hear your questions, your concerns and comments on the budget or on city services in general. And so with that, we're going to turn it over to the budget video, and we'll be back momentarily.
Corpus Christi is a vibrant coastal community with amazing natural beauty and unprecedented economic growth. It is the 8th most populated city in Texas, with an economic engine that includes industry, military, tourism, and the 3rd largest port by tonnage in the United States. City Manager Peter Zanoni delivered the 2021 City of Corpus Christi proposed budget to City Council on July 28, 2020. The budget is balanced and based on priorities from the community and City Council, with no rate increases for property tax and utility rates. The billion-dollar budget represents $242 million in the general fund, $276 million in the enterprise fund, $126 million in the special revenue funds, $121 million in debt funds, and $260 million in the capital budget. The fiscal year 2021 proposed general fund budget is $265.3 million, which is down from last year at $271.2 million. There are budget enhancements for critical service areas, with no rate increases for property tax and utility rates. With police and fire accounting for 52% of the general fund budget, the remaining departments rely on other funding resources like fines and fees. Solid waste is $28 million, streets $27 million, parks $19 million, and other departments like library, health, and animal care total $54 million. What's new in the proposed budget? Street maintenance and reconstruction will be top priority going into 2021. $78 million has been budgeted for street maintenance and reconstruction, with $33 million going to street maintenance, $34 million to arterials and collectors, and $11 million to residential streets. The streets proposed budget includes a Shoreline Ocean Drive project that will undergo a mill and overlay to rehabilitate over 14 miles of roadway from I-37 to Ennis Joslin Road at $14.5 million. $1 million is budgeted for a new program to provide maintenance for city's concrete streets and $300,000 for increased pavement markings. The police budget proposals include funding for 5 new police officer positions for a second year of plan to add 25 officers by fiscal year 2024, radio phase 2 equipment purchase of 854 radios for public safety, and a new police academy scheduled for July 2021. The fire department proposed budget includes a new fire academy scheduled for January 2021. CCFD will be at full strength with over 400 sworn firefighters in July 2021 for the first time in the past decade. Truck replacements include 3 medic units, 2 fire engines, 1 aerial truck, and replacement of 140 self-contained breathing apparatus at $931,000. The budget proposal also recommends a $360,000 increase in the city's financial contribution to the firefighter retirement system. Code enforcement budget proposals include 2 additional neighborhood code enforcement officers funded by the Community Development Block Grant to bring the strength to 23 officers. Library proposed budget includes increasing library aid and library assistant hours to better serve the public at $15,000 and increasing custodian hours to maintain cleaner facilities at $18,000. Parks and Recreation budget proposals include funding for maintenance for 3 newly commissioned splash pads at $38,000. Solid waste proposed budget includes beginning an organic waste composting program to decrease the amount of waste going to the landfill, saving taxpayer dollars, and funding for 5 solid waste recycling inspectors for public education to reduce the contamination of recyclables. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted the importance of the Health District. The Health District budget proposals include an additional $165,000 for an assessment and to create a strategic plan for future operations. Security Operations Center for 24/7 monitoring and support. In the Utilities Department, there are no proposed rate changes for water, wastewater, or gas. The fiscal year 2021 proposed budget is balanced, addresses council and community priorities, focuses on basic city functions such as public safety and streets, and is consistent with council-approved financial policies. Now that the proposed budget is presented, what's next? To adopt the fiscal year 2021 budget, a public hearing and the first reading will be September 8th, and the second reading will be September 15th during City Council meetings. The City of Corpus Christi budget is the blueprint for the next year of programs and services. If you are interested in more details about the budget, visit www.cctexas.com.
Okay, great. We hope you enjoyed that video. It's on our website as well. And so www.cctexas.com. If you'd like to watch it again or share it with your friends and family and persons you go to church with or so on. It's a real good video, kind of summarizes our entire budget. That takes a lot of time to put together, summarizes it pretty neatly in that little bit of time for you. Okay, so at this point, we've given you a pretty good background of what is in the budget. And we focused on City Council District 3 and some of the ongoing work. And we're glad we also got to talk to you a little bit about the 2020 proposed bond that the voters will consider in November, and more information will be coming out on that. But at this point, it's your meeting really, and we're going to turn it over to the community. Our interim communications director, Deanne McQueen, has done a great job the past couple of nights summarizing and moderating and getting all your questions to us. And so I'm going to turn it over to Deanna, who's going to begin to translate or pose those questions to us. And between myself and my team that's here with me or the council members, we're going to address each of your questions this evening. So Deanna, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Peter, Deanna is still filled in some of the questions.
Okay.
She's formulating those. So
Okay.
she'll be on here any minute now.
Hopefully any second, but
Well, I should have said second.
okay.
Don't always sing a little bit or tell a joke, but Deanna should be brought on here pretty quick.
Okay, well, while we're waiting, I did see one of the questions on Facebook dealing with county taxes. And specifically, is there going to be an increase in the county property tax rate? And I don't know that. We don't know that at this point. I know the judge has been working with the Commissioner's Court, Judge Canales, on their budget as well. They've had numerous work sessions, and we don't know what the county is going to do with their tax rate. And so is Deanna ready at this point, do you think, Peter?
I'm checking with her right now. She's
Okay.
up. Okay, go ahead. You're good now.
Okay, great.
She should be coming on.
Okay, great.
Here she comes. This should be either day.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? We had a little bit of a technical difficulty there, but this is live. So sometimes that happens. So we're getting lots of good questions in here tonight. So let's start with, will parks in District 3 receive funds or any updates?
Okay, Joey Johnson, are you on tonight?
Yes, sir. I'm here, and Tracy's here, and Becky's here also.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
There aren't any funds set aside for parks for District 3 for this budget year. However, we do have other funds that we can use to do some updates to parks in that area.
And if I might add, I believe of the 14 coverings, correct me if I'm wrong, Joey, I guess 2 or 3 of those parks are in District 3. They're going to receive those new coverings that we approved on Tuesday.
Yes, sir. Those 14 new coverings will go on the existing 14 playgrounds that are being installed. And I did a drive-by on those today, and they're looking really good. Very happy with the progress on those parks.
Fantastic, fantastic.
They'll even be more enhanced with those shade structures.
And another thing that I might add is that I think within the next couple of weeks, we've also got, there's going to be turf on the splash pad over at Salinas Park.
That goes to council next week, sir.
Hey, excellent. Yeah. So we're gonna get some additional improvements to that, and I have to commend you, Joey, for making sure that the grass is cut out there and the equipment is kept clear. So, but yeah, there's a few improvements that are coming.
We appreciate that. We have an amazing staff. They work very hard.
All right. Folks are asking, how do parks get chosen?
I wish somebody else would get a question, but well, we do playground inspections and park inspections on every park. The more popular parks get inspected more often, but what we do is we create work lists off those. I wish I had $1 billion to spend because we would just update every park in the city, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. So we have to prioritize by safety first, and then by the population of the area and how many people use the park. And then we make the smartest business decisions that we can with the funding that's available. And we don't do it alone. We do it with our PRAC committee, and we reach out to the councilmen when they help us out with that also.
Also a communication with, or a conversation, I should say, with the community. So we know from being out there in the community, and we know the council members are the ears and eyes of the community. So through constant dialogue about what's important to the neighborhood, what parks in particular, that's probably the way as well.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a question about CCPD. Will CCPD receive funds to add more police officers to our city?
Yes, they will. And I'm going to let Chief Markle just introduce himself in case he hasn't had a chance to see the folks recently. But this budget includes funding to add, as we promised, 5 additional police officers. We added 5 in the current year budget after many years of not adding any at all. And the council was committed to doing 5 additional officers over the next 5 years. And so in this budget, there's 5 additional officers that'll begin to be trained later in the fiscal year. And Chief Markle, you're on tonight, right? Did you want to say a quick hi?
Hello, everybody. And great question. That we'd like to bring that to light, especially in these times. This council, through the city manager, has continued to add officers to this community. I've been getting a lot of questions about whether we're going to defund the police and those types of things, and quite the opposite. Your police department has been working at a pretty low per capita rate. I think we've done a good job at about a 1.37 officer per 1,000 capita for many years. Where the low end of that range in cities is 1.5, and you'll see some larger cities go up to 3 per 1,000 capita. We've been working at a little lower level, and this council has recognized that, and they have added officers through the city manager's program over the next several years. So finishing the FTO with a field training program right now, we're 5 of those officers in addition to our regular class, and starting next year's academy will be 5 additional officers on top of those, on top of the regular attrition. So we thank you all for that. That's great. It's much needed. They're all going to be operational. They're all going to be wearing uniforms out in the field, answering calls for service and working with our community. So thank you for that. Great question.
All right, thank you, Chief. Here's another question. Does this budget have a better overlay for streets?
It does. And I'm going to turn it completely over to our new streets director, who does an outstanding job, and have him explain some of the things he's done already in our street operations to include retraining our staff, using new and better applications for how we fix streets, including potholes and street reconstructions, and working more closely with our private sector forces that help us build our streets in addition to the city forces. So Richard, let's hear from you tonight.
Peter, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I had a little. Is the entire street maintenance program. I'm still having some issues. Okay, now I'm on the street maintenance program. So yes, we have retrained our entire staff, and we are self-performing now. And in District 3, there are a lot of streets that we did along Joyce, Martin, all in those areas, and we've taken one full round around the city in every council district and done neighborhoods in every council district with our in-house crews. And we're about to do our second round through there. And I did see one of the questions that I wanted to address, Peter, if I could right now. One of the questions that were coming on was about Joyce Street and that there's a lot of potholes on Joyce Street. Well, we had just completed one section of Joyce Street from Martin to 286, and that was done in-house. And we've got a second section, 286 to Ayers, that's actually on our 2021 program. And I want to talk a little bit about that as well. So we are right now programming our 2021, our 2022, 23, 24, and 25. So our 5-year program will be coming out right after the first of the fiscal year in October, so that we can publish that and all the citizens can see that where their street will be programmed. We do work in-house and contractual services. And so we were able to get our 2019 and 2020 program and our contractual services in construction. So we should be completed with that by the end of 2021. So we should be caught up with all our contracts in 2021 and continue to move forward with our in-house groups. But we're making a lot of headway with our groups today. And we look forward to doing more streets as we are assessing the again.
Great. Thank you, Richard. Deanna, we're going to turn it back to you.
I'm here. I was changing offices real quick.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So let's see here. Let me just get focused in here. Does the budget include funds to add more community walk and bike trails?
It does, and Richard's going to speak to that as well. We had a similar question last night, and not only, Richard, when you talk about the new sidewalks that are done as part of our street work, but also talk a little bit about Vision Zero, which is one thing to have sidewalks, but it's another thing to have safe sidewalks. And so Vision Zero is a pedestrian safety awareness program that we launched earlier this year with the support of the council. And it's meant to protect the community as you're out there walking or biking or even driving. We want safe travel, safe modes of travel, no matter how we're traveling. And Richard, why don't you talk a little bit about both of those sidewalks, bike paths, and safety?
Sure. So part of our program and our street maintenance program is to ensure that we're adding pedestrian features. And so when we design and we scope projects, we want to make sure that our sidewalks are done at the same time as we're doing repairs on our roadways. That includes curb ramps, sidewalks, and then also bike lanes. So that also helps pedestrians, bicyclists, to make sure that we're delineating the lanes through those areas. And Peter is exactly right. Our city manager is exactly right that we're looking at trying to ensure that safety of our pedestrians is paramount. And so Vision Zero helps us do that. And there are a lot of things that we're implementing when we look at Vision Zero and pedestrians. Safe crosswalks, Z crosswalks. We're going to be putting in more signage, looking at driver feedback signs. So if you say, what are driver feedbacks going to do for pedestrians? Well, that helps our drivers to be aware of how fast they're going. Speed humps, all these type of things in Vision Zero are important because Vision Zero means one thing. We want to make sure that we had no pedestrian deaths and driver deaths. And that's our goal, to try to get to a zero accident level and pedestrian deaths.
All right. And now we have a question of, regarding IT and whether or not, let me see. Will IT receive? Sorry about that. Will IT receive funds for improvements to the city's Wi-Fi in District 3?
Well, Peter Collins is on, and he's actually working to make sure this program goes off without a hitch. But Peter, we're going to have you actually answer a question tonight as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of things about the Wi-Fi. The public Wi-Fi throughout the city, it is being looked at, and we're looking at the different districts. And at this time, we're just in an evaluation period. The Wi-Fi system was put in probably 13 years ago as far as the public access. Also, I know that the universities, and speaking with Del Mar, Texas A&M, they also offer free Wi-Fi within their area. So it is something we're looking at. And if you'd like to give me a holler and discuss it more, I would be more than happy to talk whoever the person was asking the question. And my office line is 361-826-3735, 826-3735. Thank you for the question.
Has the stormwater drainage fee been included in the 2021 budget?
It has not. And so we put together a working group of over 60 people that included representatives provided to us from city council members and some of the industry partners, persons that have a big impact on what stormwater rate and fee would be. And so we were going to recommend it as part of the budget to be adopted for October 1, but because the working committee wanted more time to better understand the proposal, and frankly, more so because of the COVID pandemic, we didn't want to pursue having a separate stormwater fee that would take place in October 1. So that is not in the budget. There's no stormwater new fee in the budget. And so our funds that we have today that we use to take care of the stormwater system are in the water bill. It's just part of the water bill. It's not a line item in the bill. It's part of the rate. And so that'll continue for this fiscal year, for fiscal year 21. We do, though, have Richard Martinez, who is our new Public Works Director, and we have a new focus on the storm drainage system. And we just presented that today to City Council in a workshop with them. And Richard, do you want to just highlight some of the major changes that we're doing in the stormwater system for the benefit of the great community?
Sure. Yes, sir. Thank you. So one of the areas, again, as you spoke about, is how do we have a comprehensive stormwater program? And so going back and taking a look at our program, we decided, what do we need to actually put in place? So one of the biggest improvements for stormwater is going to be a street sweeping program. In a street sweeping program, we're going to be sweeping residential streets twice a year. That has not been done here in Corpus Christi. So that'll help us take contaminants off the roadways and keep them from getting in the drainage systems that get to our bay. Not only are we going to do residential streets, we're going to be doing arterials 4 times a year in the downtown, Ocean, and North Beach 3 times a week. And so that's a big improvement as well. We're also going to be doing a lot of things that have to do with our drainage system, repairs in our drainage systems, to do inspections of our underground system. So additional mowing is going to be as well on our right of ways. So there are a lot of great things that we're doing with our stormwater program, but we're also put together a 5-year plan so we can look long range to see how we can improve the stormwater program in the next 5 to 10 years.
All right, we're switching subjects here. Does the budget include funds for personal protective equipment for public libraries?
Well, let's have our library director, Laura. The answer is yes, but let's have Laura explain it. She's done an outstanding job in the past 5 months in making sure all of our library staff are safe. In fact, at one point in the beginning of the pandemic, she had the strongest PPE protocol in place. And we also have a strong protocol program where she does to make sure the patrons are safe. And so, Laura, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, Laura Garcia, Library Director. One of the things, of course, we've done is we've social distanced our computers. We are working on trying to get the barriers needed so that we can bring some up. Normally, we have 120 public computers available. Because of the need to social distance, we currently only have 60 available throughout the system. So we are getting the necessary barriers. We are in the process of getting those materials ordered. Also, the other thing, of course, as part of that, we went towards doing curbside service. And right now, because we know that people are wanting to come in back into the buildings to actually do browsing inside the building, we are working on putting protective barriers at our checkout counters. So we have those in the process of getting installed. As soon as we do some of that, we will be moving towards having some browsing days that we'll let people come into the building. But for now, basically, we're still doing people can come in by reservation to use the computers. And so we have that by reservations. The other is, like I said, curbside. Of course, we also have electronic material that individuals can use. But we are, like I said, in the process of getting social barrier things set up so that we can actually let people come into the building, or more people, I should say.
Can you explain for the school children how do they check out a book nowadays?
Right now, basically, it's basically through curbside. Even the summer program that we had for crafts and so forth, we did it all through curbside. But we do have, of course, they can get online and make a reservation for the materials that they're interested in, and then they come. When they get here, we just take the materials out to them to their vehicles.
Right, but how do they tell you they want a particular book?
Well, they can either call us or they can place the request online. And then what we do is we pull those requests. We have a process that we pull each day. The materials are pulled at each location. And so basically it's electronically, they can do that, or just call us also and we'll take their request.
Okay, and the electronic form is on your website?
Yes, we have through our library catalog, they can do that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, switching gears again, will code enforcement get additional funds? If so, will they make sure apartment complexes are up to code?
Yes, and so this budget has 2 additional code enforcement officers, and we added some in the current year budget as well. And we know that over time we'll probably add more. So there are 2 in the budget that'll be funded beginning October 1. That'll bring us with a total of 23 to that whole department. And their job is apartment complexes, single family houses, commercial. They stay busy. They were reporting to City Hall each morning prior to the COVID pandemic, but now they pretty much leave from their house and they have their full day work plan because of technology. They're able to hit the ground running right away. So yes, that's a very important area that we have a focus on in the city. And I know City Councilman Barrera and many of the council members want us to make sure we continue to improve in that area. So yes, the answer is yes on that one.
Does the budget help make downtown more accessible to the whole community?
Richard, do you want to answer that one? I think it does. I mean, if you just look at one way to getting down here, that Ocean Drive, that'll be one, but there's other ways as well. I know we're working on signage as well when you come down 37. We also have I don't know if Dan McGinn's on, but in the current year budget, we put monies in the budget to do a corridor study so we could see for those access points of how do you get into downtown, do they look nice? Can we make them look better, more attractive for our own eyes, but also for our tourists that come here and other people across Texas that come here? And so we have several things going on those major points of entry, including a planning study so we can reimagine and have a plan for making some of the major corridors into downtown look better and give us a greater showcase as you come into the city. Did you want to add anything to that, Richard?
Sure. Yes, sir. Thank you. So one of the major projects that we talked about earlier is Ocean and Shoreline Drive that we're working on. So in that area, not only are we going to be repaving that and giving a better driving surface, but we're also going to be putting in bike lanes and also looking at pedestrian amenities. So you would be able to go from the university out past Ennis Jocelyn all the way downtown. So pedestrians, bicyclists, all that would be able to go through. We're also going to be updating the signage in the area, as you mentioned, Peter. But also, if you look at, we're also putting illuminated street signs all through downtown and all in through major intersections as you come in. So that also helps pedestrians and the motoring public get a better idea of where they are and how to get into downtown. And then the amenities, as far as ensuring that we're cleaning them 3 times a week in the downtown area, makes it much cleaner for us to be able to attract more people into the downtown area. And one other thing I'm working on with the Convention Center and Visitors Bureau is wayfinding signs. So that's a big improvement that we're going to be doing in the downtown area to see what we can do to improve that process as well.
This is Jeff Edmonds, Director of Engineering Services. I can add a little to that as well. We do have a Bond 18 project that is moving forward that's budgeted for $850,000 for downtown pedestrian safety improvements. And additionally, we have a project that's currently under construction in the C District that is intended to enhance pedestrian safety to people going to and from the American Bank Center and Salina Auditorium.
Hello, Peter. I'm going to be filling in for Deanna for a couple of moments. There's a question about Cole Park Pier.
Okay.
You know, is it going to be reconstructed in the same fashion that it is today? And will it be? There's 2 parts. I'll wait for you to answer that one first.
Okay, yes, Cole Park Pier is by this time next year, we'll have a brand new pier in the bay in the same general area as the current one. And this is something we've been working on now for the past 12 months or so. We have funding identified to rebuild the pier. We had numerous public engagement opportunities prior to COVID and then even through COVID to get input from the community on what they wanted to see in a new pier. And so
we'll see that.
By and large, we're keeping the same footprint in terms of length. It will be wider though. And the community has asked for more shade on the pier and more opportunities for seating on the pier and additional fish cleaning stations. And so all those are being incorporated into the design. Right now, the new pier is being designed by a real good firm. Jacobs is their name. And the design will be done in the next couple of months. And so what's going to happen is soon the current pier is going to be demolished, will be removed. That's going to take place through the fall in either October or November. We'll be demolishing it, or maybe even sooner. And then the new construction will begin in January, approximately January this coming year. And the new pier will be fully functional and built before July and probably around even June. And it'll be ready to go for next summer. So this is going to be this is an important project to the community. And we've put a lot of time and effort into it, and we've engaged the community quite a bit. Councilman Ben Molina has been a steward of this project and has made sure that community engagement was one of the primary things that we did in getting this pier replaced. So was there a part 2 to that question, Peter?
You actually answered part 2. It was about lights and accessibility. And basically, would there be the opportunity to continue to fish at night on the pier like people used to?
Yes. Yeah. So there'll be lighting on the pier, and there's going to be a much better promenade onto the pier. Right now, it needs improvement. So not only will there be a new pier from the water's edge out into the water, but the whole approach of getting there is going to look a whole lot better. There'll be additional parking as well closer to the pier. We know that a lot of people take their tackle gear and even just a fishing rod. Sometimes a lot to have to carry across the whole park. And so that whole area is going to see some significant investment. And we're real excited about it. And a lot of people see it every day that may be on the bay driving by, or even if you don't use it, you see it. And so it's a great icon for the city, and we can't wait to get it rebuilt.
It's unmuted.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Deanna, are you back here with us?
It'll flicker. Gosh.
Well, Peter, I have another question while Deanna's coming back online. It relates to bike riding within the city and the bike paths.
Okay.
Are there plans to extend the bike paths in the city? And is there a central map for people to identify the bike lanes throughout the city?
Okay, that's a great question. I know several of us bike here at City Hall, including Jeff Edmonds and our engineering director. And I'm going to have Richard and him speak to some of the particulars, but bike lanes are important. It's not just bike lanes, but it's all modes of transportation are important. We have to talk about multimodal transportation as a community. And so sidewalks, bike paths, and vehicle lanes are all critical. And so as we design new road projects, we're making sure bike lanes are either kept or even added, in some cases, brand new facilities. And as we do our striping, lane markings, making sure the bike path is delineated and has the bike's symbol in there is important as well. And Richard may have talked a little bit about us increasing the striping of refreshing those lines. And so that's important as well. Either Jeff or Richard, if you could talk a little bit about the plans that we might have or maps that we might have in terms of identified bike lanes.
Okay, so Peter, yes, the city has an adopted MPO bike plan that's incorporated into our city project. So yes, there is a plan for bike lanes. And as you spoke about, every time we scope a project or mark our pavements, we look at that plan to make sure that we're following that plan, and so that we add additional bike lanes throughout the city. And that's what we do in operations and maintenance. Jeff, if you want to take that on a little bit more in your construction projects.
Yes. So, Richard, we do have some design standards to incorporate bicycle accommodation into our bond projects when they're on routes that are included on the MPO bike plan. Additionally, we put bond money in for transportation alternatives. There was $250,000 on Bond 18 for alternative mobility. And we typically use those dollars to help leverage MPO dollars that are funded through the Transportation Alternatives Program, so that we usually wind up getting 2/3, 3/4 of those project costs covered by grant dollars.
Okay,
All right,
great.
let's try this. Third time's a charm. Are there funds to update Greenwood Library, Greenwood Senior Center, and our Greenwood Fire Station?
This is Laura Garcia.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
do want to address the Greenwood is actually now known as the McDonald Library. Most of us still think of it as the Greenwood Library. But one of the things, I know there was a question earlier about Wi-Fi and so forth. We just finished a project in which we upgraded our network at that location. So at that location, in terms of Wi-Fi, we will have stronger Wi-Fi, and we are doing other technology-related updates to that location.
Will additional funds be sought to update Labonte Park?
Yes, monies are included actually in this year's budget to upgrade Labonte Park. And if anybody's been out there recently, they can see some significant improvements. There were some dated buildings that were there. They were added, I guess, a couple decades ago, and they had been vandalized, fallen into disrepair, and not even usable anymore. We couldn't even rehab them if we wanted to. So those recently have been demolished. And I've been up there a couple times in recent weeks, and it's a real beautiful park. The grass is almost immaculately mowed and manicured. We're putting new trees in. A lot of the benches that are right there by the Nueces River have been painted recently, and there's some shade coverings. And so we continue to invest in that park. We want to do a little bit more over time in terms of its identification or marquee signage, because that's one of the first things you see when you hit the city limits. And we want people to be excited about being here. And so when they see that park and see the name Corpus Christi, that'll be some of the other focus that we do in the park over there. But more trees, especially, we've planted some and more are coming, and we'll continue to make improvements to make it a great destination for our community.
All right, we have another dog park question. Does this budget include funds for a dog park in District 3?
Let's have either Jeff or Richard. I don't think it specifically does, but we're building a new one at Bill Witt Park, and the one downtown here at Water's Edge continues to be highly functional. So, Jeff, do you want to add anything to that?
I don't have any plans that we're working on in engineering for a dog park in District 3.
Now speak to the ones that we do have, if you can. The one at the one at Bill Witt, and that one is almost complete. I know it's not in District 3, but it's.
Yeah, that one's in District 5, and of course the one downtown at Water's Edge Park, which also isn't in District 3. I'm probably going to have to call in a lifeline to Joe Johnson and ask him if there are any plans adding any.
Yeah, Jeff, there aren't any plans in this budget to do the dog park. However, our new master plan, the 10-year master plan that we're working on right now with the new consultant, one of the line items in the scope of work is for them to identify areas for us to design new dog parks. So when we bring that consultant on here in the next couple of weeks, they'll be able to show us where we should build new dog parks, help us plan those dog parks, and then hopefully in the future we can ask for those budget dollars to make that happen. But Bill Witt should be open in the next couple of weeks.
All right, here's another District 3 question. Will this budget help create space for food trucks and small businesses to start up in commercial areas of District 3?
No, it specifically does not, but I think in some of the designs that we're doing in our streets and these commercial corridors for future projects, those are kept in mind. I know the commercial corridor in District 3. I've been there myself several times in the last 12 months or so, and it does provide a lot of opportunity. I don't know if Jeff or Richard want to add to that.
I can add to it, Peter, if I may. Just Tuesday we had the first reading for basically a tax incentive for a developer to develop a 777 townhomes, 999 units for multifamily housing along the Crosstown, Greenwood, and Holly corridor behind Walmart and in the AMC Theater. And included in that is a 10-acre park, which is going to be more like a regional park, like a community park. So I know that they've considered incorporating that type of facility or that type of venue to be able to accommodate that. It's obviously long-term planning, but that's something that now that I would prefer that we continue to consider in District 3, so that way we can have people centers. But I don't know if anything that we're going on right now.
Will this budget help recreation and senior centers get additional funding?
So the funding for our recreational centers and senior centers is level funding in the budget. And as we mentioned in the beginning, through the video and some of the introductory comments, our revenues are actually down in this fiscal year. We're going to collect less money over the next 12 months, beginning in October, compared to what we've done in the past 12 months. And so We wish we could do a lot of these things. These are a lot of great wants and needs. And but what we are doing and what we're focused on is maintaining what we have. And so while we may not be adding more amenities to some of these features that you all are talking about, what we have, we're maintaining better. We're developing better maintenance plans, especially in our park systems. And we have a focus now on asset management. Before, even just 12 months ago, we really didn't have an organized asset management department. And a city of this size, with all the buildings we have, we need an in-house, we need a department basically that has expertise on how do you keep a facility running well and keep it clean and keep reinvesting in it in a small way each month. And so that is what we're doing on things like senior centers and community centers. And so you'll begin to see a difference even without a huge investment in say, a new asset within that facility itself.
This is Jim Davis. I'd like to add a little bit comment on the asset management. As an example, one of the buildings that from the direction of the city manager where we've done a great deal of work and we're enhancing the 6th floor area. We've put a very nice fence around the partial perimeter of the building. We've done considerable work on the roof. We've remodeled the La Pond entrance. We've done landscaping all over the campus. We've gone ahead and demoed some ugly and buildings on one corner of the campus. We intend to overhaul the elevator system. We've enhanced our security, and we've remodeled and re-equipped the IT server room. Just to give you, within the last few months, some of the projects that asset management has done in one building. There's others. We've done over 72 or 3 roofs throughout the city, which stood us in good stead in Hurricane Hannah and so on and so forth. And this is all the direction of the manager who wants to go ahead and improve the appearance, not only of city buildings, but the entire city. Thank you.
How do citizens know if industries paying into the industrial districts are paying their fair share?
Yeah, so the industrial districts, they are not in the city limits, and so they don't pay a full city property tax. But the reason they're not in the city limits is they don't really use any of our services. If you think about some of the basic ones like police, they don't use police, they have their own police presence. And a bigger one is fire, and all the oil industry and other industries that we're talking about in this area or in this question have a separate fire department that specializes in industrial fires. And so some time ago, several years ago, they worked with the city council on annexing out of the city, but the city council had good policy to consider, and that is that they pay what they call a payment in lieu of taxes. And so this pilot, as the acronym we use, is paid to the city every year, and it's a good portion of what they would pay in property tax. And we monitor that, and we make sure they're paying the amounts that they should. And city council over time has dedicated some of that money directly to streets. And so when we showed you that 78 million, some of that is funded through this industrial district payments, and it goes directly to make sure our streets are being improved.
All right, we have another public works question. Will this budget help restore the ABC streets, now that's around Costoris, in the 78415 area?
Okay, so I don't have any information in those areas, but what I will do is go out and evaluate those streets. I'm working on my 5-year plan today, and we'll look and see what the priority is on those streets in those areas. I'll give an example of some of our streets and conditions. They fall in different categories. So we have a lot of different applications. So if they're in an area that we can maintain and do overlays without heavy flat work, and when I mean flat work is all the curbs and sidewalks and driveways are still in good condition, then we can do mill and overlays, and those can get programmed sooner than the other streets once the curbs and sidewalks are in really poor condition, because those go into reconstructions. They may go into the residential street reconstructions or into arterials and collector reconstructions. So we have to evaluate the entire system. But I am taking down that information, and I will be evaluating that area.
And if I might add just one more, as we said before, we're putting those sidewalks down the Sunnybrook Drive, which has been something that we've needed for quite some time.
Yes, and Councilman, we're also looking at the street. Once those sidewalks are in, we're going to look at the street conditions to see where, if we can improve the street conditions in the next year to 2 years.
Another District 3 question. They want to know if District 3 will receive any additional basketball courts.
Joey, do you want to answer that one? I'm not sure if the Celine Park $1 million improvement will include a basketball court.
No, sir, it won't include a basketball court there. The master plan that we're working on right now is we've actually put that in the scope to help us identify areas where we're in short need of those. And also we're looking at maybe possibly in the future, putting some shade structures over the top of other basketball courts that we already have. So not in this budget, but definitely looking to improve in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Well, don't forget, if you want to read the proposed budget, you can go to our website at www.cctexas.com. I'm going to pitch it back to you, Peter. We've had a lot of activity down here. I want to thank Dale Stefan for helping me out tonight.
Okay, great. Yeah, for the persons that are on YouTube and Facebook, we're also, we can read your questions, which they have been doing, but we're also taking phone calls. And so we have a big phone bank for persons that may not have access to a computer. And so that's what Deanna's been doing, is trying to get all those questions in. And I hope we got them all. I was looking at Facebook a moment ago, and somebody was asking, where are all these questions coming from? But that's it. So it's Facebook, YouTube, and then the telephone. And so that brings us to a close for tonight's meeting. We really want to thank you for participating. I think this has been another successful WebEx, or I can't think of the word here, but a virtual, that's it, a virtual meeting on our budget. We know this doesn't replace or it can't replace that in-person meeting that we're used to, but we think it helps to get your input. We've received a lot of great input tonight. We appreciate the community participating. I'm going to have Councilman Barrera say the closing comments, but we appreciate the council members being on, even those that don't represent District 3. This just shows that the council as a whole and as a body really do care about the community, and that's why this is a great place to be, and a great place to be helping the community. So just some quick housekeeping things, then I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Barrera, and that is that there are 2 more budget input sessions. If you want to participate in 2 additional ones, you don't have to live in those districts. And one will be on Monday, August 17, and then on August 19th, on Wednesday, will be the second one, as you can see in this graphic here. So the 17th will be hosted by District 4, Councilman Smith, and then the 19th on Wednesday will be hosted by Councilman Hernandez, who's been with us the past couple of nights. And then also, if you want to talk to the council at one of the council meetings with our COVID protocol, which is telephone or emailing in or submitting to our city secretary comment, you can do that on the tax rate on the 8th of September, and then again on the 8th of September on the budget. There'll be 2 public hearings. And then city council, after receiving all your all's input, to include numerous workshops. We're doing workshops with the council where we're spending 3 hours each day on Thursday. We're going to do 4 of those. After they do that and get community input and bring their own intuition and thought to the table, they'll consider the budget, adopting it with adjustments potentially. And the first reading for that is September 8th, and then the second reading and the adoption is September 15th. And that'll be put us in a good position to start the new fiscal year, which starts on October 1, and that's what the budget is for. So with that, I want to thank you as your city manager. It's a privilege and an honor really to serve you in this capacity. And we continue to try to do great things, not only for District 3, but for the entire community. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Barrera, who will do some closing comments for us this evening.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you to your team. They've just done a wonderful job, been very accessible, very open. Great questions, wonderful questions. And if you have some more that you didn't get to tonight, I want to give everybody my office number, which is 361-400-2484, 361-400-2484. And you can also find my email address out on the city website and get me those questions, and we can get them addressed. If you have any concerns, whether they be with code enforcement, I think there's some things. I was taking notes. I'm a basketball player myself and a cyclist, not a very good ones, but I think basketball courts are something that are very important. Getting kids outside. I've always said that keeping people healthy, especially during this time, getting exercise, getting some fresh oxygen, getting that vitamin D, taking a look at the ABC streets. I'm really proud of those sidewalks that we're going to put in, but if we need to do more, then we'll go continue to address it. Park improvements. I love hearing that, and I'm really excited about this 10-acre park that'll be along with this Bohemian colony development, which once again, that's going to be something that's about $230 million worth of investment from the developer. It's going to bring in about $320 million of assessed value for ad valorem. So that's going to be a good shot in the arm for District 3. Help those businesses along there, because now all those families that we'll be able to incorporate. So that means more money to be able to provide for our streets. So that's another thing. And then working with our community partners. I know we've been working with West Oso ISD with some of the construction they're doing, so we could facilitate them having good roadways through there, public utilities. We've been supportive of them. And as they expand their facilities, that brings more value to that area. The new Carroll High School, it's a $100 million school. I'm sure a lot of anxious people are going to want to be moving to the District 3 area. And traffic engineering has done their part to ensure that we're going to try and mitigate any congestion as much as possible. There's going to be a back way along through Carroll Lane along that ditch with a bike path. So that's other items that are in the planning. Everhart is another high profile project that's going on right now, and it's on schedule and it's on budget. So great questions, a lot of things going on in District 3. Very proud to serve you. And once again, that number is 400-2484. Thank you all of you for tuning in, and thank you for staff, and thanks for the great job.